Greetings from National Resource Center, Sri Ram College of Commerce. The topic is building resilience. In the contemporary world of modern education and knowledge, a teacher is not only fountainhead of knowledge creation and dissemination, but is also the instrument required to sharpen the intellect of students. The dictionary of education has changed over the time to accommodate the moving progressive world, and so has the role of a teacher. The education system has been reconstructing its variables, and a teacher has to pace with it. In today's highly competitive, globalized scenario, the institution of higher education demand the subversion of conventional chains of teaching and its approach. From the mere chains of routinized events comprising of curriculum delivery, managing timetables, examination responsibility, and to cover up the syllabus in an assigned duration, the teacher has to now conceptualize a phenomena. Teacher's mind itself has become the space of creation and time. This change in the teacher's role, along with the transforming cultural and teaching values, has generated a new understanding of words like commitment, dedication, and perseverance. However, these new emerging trends, requirements, and goals can be stressful to cope up with, and hence there is a call for a multidimensional savior. This dynamic factor is resilience. Comprehending the role of resilience in teachers' management of both professional and personal life can help to increase his or her effectiveness and quality of work. Teachers often come across incidents like students misbehaving in class, parents challenging a decision made by a teacher, a colleague not being supportive of an institutional practice. These small actions might not appear to be a problem for a teacher. They are often neglected also, and at times are not even counted as obvious challenges of this profession. However, if a teacher thinks about them, then these challenges are actually the biggest hindrance to a teacher's peace and productivity. By considering these problems and taking required and timely action, a teacher can discharge his or her duty in a more effective manner. Resilience helps teacher to react to these challenging circumstances in a positive manner. Someone has rightly said, resilience is the capacity to continue to bounce back or to recover strength or spirit quickly and efficiently in the face of adversity. It is closely allied to a strong sense of vocation, self-efficacy, and motivation to teach, which are fundamental for sustaining a commitment to promote achievement in all the aspects of students' life. Some researchers have also comprehended resilience to be a personal attribute or trait. However, because of changing times, social aspect of resilience is equally relevant. Resilience as characteristic is psychological, but the ability to cope up with and adapt to the environment and social changes mediated through appropriate institutions is social resilience. Both psychological and social aspects of resilience should be studied together in order to make it teacher's strength. Resilience is both a process of adaptation and a set of individual attributes. Therefore, understanding individual and contextual factors instigating teachers or disturbing their peace become important to explore why resilience is required and how can it be attained. Also, as resilience can only be tested in a situation of adversity, the challenging situations or adverse circumstances can be labeled as risk factors. The risk factors can be categorized as personal factors. Personal factors include problems like negative self-belief, hitch in asking for help, individual dilemma about the differences between one's own beliefs and institutional practices. Let's discuss these personal factors in detail. First is negative self-belief. A state of negative self-belief can result in decrease of confidence level. One can have false beliefs, but even though they are false, a feeling of I'm not good enough can hamper a classroom. It becomes necessary to balance it with positive beliefs and facts a teacher has about himself or herself. You can back up these beliefs with reasoning and trust, self assurance, trusting your skills and capabilities are very important. If unchecked, a teacher might present himself or herself as more vulnerable. A comment or a complaint should not dishearten you if you're honest with your values of hard work and dedication that are required for a class. Second, we have hesitation in asking for help. It has been witnessed that teachers hesitate in asking for help or clearing their doubts with a fellow colleague, just out of the fear of sounding incapable or incompetent. One should actually understand that there is no harm in asking for assistance, as even the most experienced teacher don't know it all. Knowledge is a vast sea whom no one could or can conquer. Moreover, the teaching now requires a multidimensional understanding of a subject, yet one human being cannot be interested in all the sections of society. For instance, if one teacher is good with politics, the other might be better in the understanding of the geography of a land. By reaching out for help, teachers can get the answers they need, which would help them to bring out their best in a classroom. Asking for help will not make you look weak. Rather, you will be seen as someone with great strength. Third is the conflict between perceived beliefs and practices in use. Conflict between perceived beliefs and actual practices might create a state of disequilibrium. For example, a teacher might view teaching as transformation of knowledge rather than knowledge transformation process. If a teacher believes that teaching is transformation of knowledge, then he or she will not be very comfortable with static curriculum. In fact, the teacher will want the authority to change the predefined content and bring some dynamism in the class in form of contemporary and contextual content and also modern methodologies. This conflict might also arise because of difference in understanding of definition of words like progress, time management, hierarchies, protocols, and values like punctuality, sharing between colleagues, teachers and students, and teachers in authority. For example, one colleague might define satisfaction in terms of command and orders, and other in exploring various works and activities of the profession. Fourth is ego. Teachers are of an opinion that they know everything. They have solutions to all the problems. Their word in the class is the last. Then ego problems can originate. Statements like, which language do you understand in? How many times do you expect me to explain the same thing? Are often heard in a classroom. But still, a teacher should not use such statements. A teacher must work in the class with the objective of building mutual trust and strive to understand the perspective of students. Teachers' ego must not be fed by the virtue of authority they enjoy in the class. Teachers should also critically analyze their behavior and inculcate the habit of listening and confirming with the students. Next sets of challenges include first, contextual challenges. Our environment also creates a number of challenges which are beyond the control of a teacher, like unsuitable, outdated course structure, timetable issues, delegation of improper work, unavailability of proper space. Such issues also affect the resilience of a teacher, leading to negative consequences. Imagine the frustration of teaching nature, flowers, and love in a closed walled classroom, or teaching commerce to a student who's studying it only because he or she could not get admission into science stream, or a teacher asked to organize a freshers party when he or she is at the last stages of his or her research work or publication. Then next we have classroom challenges. One of the most frequent factors associated with teachers' resilience is behavior of students in the classroom. Students can create an unfavorable climate in the classroom by their disruptive behavior. It can be an act of violence, disorder, and verbal abuse. Students' disruptive behavior is also apparent in form of throwing furniture, smashing door while leaving the classroom, or kicking, among many other things. All these might result in a teacher losing his or her confidence or calm. Next is an important risk factor, diversity. diversity is a very important factor, more so when teaching is happening in a global world. Students and colleagues come from various segments and sections of society. It becomes important for a teacher to have knowledge and understanding of their belief systems. Such understanding helps in fostering broad mindedness, compassion, and inclusiveness. Teachers are at times reluctant to have diversity related discussions, or they avoid such discussions which can result in ill feeling, especially among the students who come from the marginalized sections of society. A teacher raising his or her voice or speaking slowly when addressing a blind student, or a teacher calling a male student more frequently than a female student can be easily witnessed in a class. A blind student can definitely adjust to the regular pitch of a teacher. A female student is equally capable of performing the tasks. These actions can be dismissed as insignificant, but in reality can work as a catalyst to the aggression of students. These kind of aggressions are labeled as microaggressions. Microaggressions are everyday verbal, non-verbal, and environmental slights, snubs, or insults, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative messages to the target persons based solely upon their marginalized group membership. Next comes lack of resources or equipments. Poor infrastructural facilities can be stressful for both teachers and students. A poorly ventilated, dark, and dirty classroom drastically affect the performance of both the teacher and students. Other facilities like well-maintained washrooms, availability of drinking water are also necessary. It has been found that facilities at an institution affect students' health and behavior in terms of engagement in class, learning, and their achievements. Ultimately, poor quality resources and services also result in increase in absenteeism and sickness, low test scores, and decrease in productivity also. All these will affect a teacher's confidence and morale. Next, professional work environment. The professional work environment can also give rise to a lot of challenges like heavy workload, executing administrative duties, strict and rigid hierarchies. For instance, superficial ego and prejudices of senior peers can hinder the workings and peace of a junior colleague. Other factors include poor hiring practices, lack of job security, unsupportive leader or mentor. All these can also lead to unsatisfactory work environment for teachers. All the discussed factors pose serious challenges to teachers' resilience. These have to be overcome in order to ensure a teacher's efficacy in classroom. To mitigate the risk factors, protective factors come into help. Protective factors help an individual to view or convert adverse situations into positive measures that help in building resilience. Features of altruism, sense of self-efficacy, behavioral management, intrinsic motivation are important for teaching and provide shield against the risk present in the profession. Contextual protective factors in form of administrative support, support of peers and colleagues, smooth working with students further help in developing resilience. Now let's discuss some of the key ways to build resilience and establish a stress-free and happy working place for teachers. Teachers should be sure about the values that are important to them and the beliefs that they value the most. These values and beliefs are a substantial part of their social identity, and thus identifying them will help them analyze what are their expectations from their students, colleagues, and institutions, and how will that be kept in front of the class or their colleagues. It will further assist them in challenging times. For example, punctuality. It is a very significant value for some teachers and they cannot compromise on it. So before going to the class, the teacher should be very clear about how he or she will ensure the same from the students. Discussing it openly with students will help the teacher prevent future arguments over it. The second important thing is to understand your emotions. That is, How do they surface in different situations? Retrospect and think about the various ways in which you have expressed a particular emotion. Which emotion engulfs you more? Read them and see if emotions like anger and frustrations have been productive or destructive. Compare the expressed emotion of past, whether it is compassion, anger, or kindness, that helped you to build a positive environment. This comparison will help you understand the difference of good and bad emotions and their degrees. This will further assist you to control certain emotions. For instance, at times, it is easier to sort things with a discussion among colleagues rather than strict actions. Another thing that you can practice is to understand the gap between action and its interpretation. Sitting with a dull face does not necessarily mean that your student is not content with your methodology or it is boring. Rather, it is possible that the student is tense because of some personal problem. So, how you interpret an action or situation increases the power of resilience. Bonding with your colleagues is the next point. It can be a great strength. Healthy relationships give you the space to express your emotions, problems, and expectations freely. It is like catharsis, purgation of excess emotions. This leaves you more balanced for a class. Remember, it is the other who is making judgment about me, and that does not decide my reality. This makes acceptance easier. So, when a student is reading me to be strict in a situation, it is based on his or her understanding of strictness. They are definitely not the universal trait of strictness. If you're called strict because you did not let your students smoke in the class, then it is definitely not being strict but being a dutiful teacher. Next, give yourself some time. Continuous speaking, managing, arranging, organizing, counseling, sorting can be tiresome at times. Hence, it should not always be about narrating the experiences of being in the mountains, but sometimes a teacher should be actually in the mountains. Fresh air, daffodils, and bright light can definitely rejuvenate any being. Next, look at the proton. Definitely, a good teacher understands the difference between a proton and an atom. But at times, in some classes, it is good to focus on the interested students. Might be a slow learner, enthusiastic to learn, needs you more than someone who ironically feels that he has conquered the world of knowledge. Next, understanding diversity. It can also add to the power of resilience. We live in a large world that is filled with different people. Students and so do colleagues come from different cultures and backgrounds. They are comfortable or used to different tones and dialects. Signifiers of languages are different, gestures vary at different places. If you identify and accept these differences, then it will not be difficult to suppress your anger and stress. Next, be open to learning. You have grown up proving your understanding and intelligence through questions. So, how can any question be difficult now? Bring it on. Why don't you learn something new? Explore and fathom the unknown depths of and answer the harder questions of your student. Also, the students and the younger colleagues are more aware about changing contemporary trends. They are more tech friendly. So, it is always good to appreciate and learn from them. They can make both the classes and students much more interesting in your subject. This way, you can also be friends with them. Next, change your methodology. Sometimes mere preaching or lectures or passing facts can be a challenge. Passive students become a big task. So it is good to be creative. Willingness to be creative and explore makes you stretch your own limits. In this process, you can analyze and reconstruct your weak points. Maybe you're not good at teaching a particular topic, but a debate with your students on that topic makes you understand it better. You also learn the mantra of a different approach. Give your students some handouts and not always textbooks. Take them out and teach them communication by talking to different people. Let them understand life by meeting people and talking to them. Let them understand cinema by watching. Be a facilitator. and not the one who always thrusts his or her own views. Prepare not difficult but challenging tasks. More struggle definitely ensures greater learning and flexibility. Next, change. They are better than stagnation. At times, there is no harm to strive for a change, deliberate one, in our approach and conventional ways. Our world is in a state of flux. More than ends, it is the process which is now important. So, you should sit back and evaluate, re strategize your actions, ways, reactions to enhance your resilience. And the last is applauds and appreciation. They're the best resources to develop resilience. Who does not want them? Teachers work hard not only to improve their students' skills and concept, but also immensely contribute to their social and personal growth. Therefore, it is very important to recognize and congratulate yourself for the effort that you have put in shaping students' right behavior and mental attitude. You also work hard for cultural fairs, sports meets, annual days. It's a teamwork, and you and your colleagues have made this day successful after dedication and hard work of many days. So celebrate the successful completion of the event. Recognize each other's work. It spreads happiness. Now, if students play such an important part in a teacher's life and building resilience, how can we not discuss about them and their resilience? One very significant contribution of a teacher in a student's life is facilitating his or her cognitive and socioeconomic development. This further helps students to become successful and responsible citizens. And for the same reason, teacher should also pay attention in building students' resilience. The purpose of education is not only restricted to content teaching, but to uncover and understand student strengths and weaknesses. Students have their own difficult times, for instance, not able to get required resources, support, and guidance. In such moment of their lives, they also need to exhibit the quality of resilience. They need to learn to channelize their energy, improvise, and mobilize the available resources. Adapt change and put their best skills to execute a task. So resilience become equally important for them also. And in turn, teachers should impart important learnings of resilience to their students. Therefore, let's discuss some ways to build on students' resilience. Following can be understood as required changes for achieving resilience. First, familiarization with risk. A student from the onset should be introduced to the risk that the changing environment brings with it. Students must understand how changes in time and situations are inevitable. There is no way of avoiding, eliminating turbulent or challenging times, and this universal perspective should be shared with the students. Resilience. This process will easily be practiced when students will be able to adjust to their environment through successful interaction with its variables. Home, school, colleges, and classroom are always presumed as safe escape for students. But the outlook has to be widened and students should be prepared for what is offered by the outside world. Then comes classroom processes. Collaborative and cohesive environment should be provided to student as it has been proved that students' homework in friendly environment often tend to display dynamic behavior in the form of innovative and creative thoughts and inputs. At an institution, the kind of process that are adopted get automatically reflected in classroom. There are three basic elements which must be understood in order to understand how classroom can be built as a learning community space. First, the relationships being formed both between teachers and students should be based on the primary emotion of care. Second, how engagement takes place. It has to be inclusive and influential. Third, some shared beliefs and values should be there in a classroom. The classroom must be collaborative, empowering, innovating, enjoyable, and supportive. Next, we have classroom practices. Experiential learning activities and interactive classes can help students in better learning. The efforts of a teacher should be to provide opportunities for the students. to learn and participate, rather than coming and delivering a lecture without understanding the specific characteristics of a class. Students should be made comfortable by exchanging thoughts with each other, cracking jokes, and telling stories, among many other activities. It has been viewed that students tend to perform better in small groups rather than when all are put together. Also, the vulnerable learner should be given more attention. Fourth is building trust. In a classroom, there should be a sense of trust between a student and a teacher. Such a bond not only builds connection but also develops the feeling of care. The environment in the class should be such that it reduces anxiety, stress, and fear. A student should feel free and comfortable to share his or her opinion in class. However, it can only happen when the student trusts the teacher enough to not be misjudged on a wrong answer. A relaxed mind is more conducive expression of warmth and affection, further help in building a strong connect between teachers and students. A simple expression by a teacher that do not worry, even when a problem is difficult, will surely help the student to solve it and perform good in exams. A teacher should also be sure about the attitude or nature of the students. Sometimes spending more time with students helps the later to adjust in the class. A teacher can do so by various ways, such as asking simple questions. How did you spend your weekend? What do you enjoy doing in your free time? Who's your favorite player? A teacher can also engage students by conducting activities in class or arranging class in different ways. For instance, circle time. Circle time sessions are sessions wherein a class is arranged in a circular shape and discussions on an already decided theme takes place with set rules like no negative comments or sarcasm and a sense of confidentiality. These sessions are helpful in resolving many problems as every student gets a chance to speak and express. And gradually, because of healthy engagement and trust, students are also able to take the feedback positively. A teacher can also engage the students in the process of banking time, where students are given an opportunity to engage in interactions with are non-stressful. These results in boosting their strengths. A student can also be motivated to perform something he or she likes, for example, sing a song, deliver a monologue. And finally, it's about promoting peer relationship. A teacher should try and build healthy bonding between students by encouraging them to listen and appreciate each other. This inculcates a feeling of solidarity and mutual respect for each other. Teachers' statements like, you all should support and respect each other, can definitely foster a feeling of belongingness among them. A teacher should never be part of any satire posed on a student by his or her classmates. This might act as a catalyst for a student's negative behavior. Further, these acts will not even let the student take any positive comments from anyone. In order to build a harmonious relationship among students, a teacher can help them in forming small groups for discussion or have classroom meetings once in a while. A teacher can also help the students who often feel being neglected to become a part of the class by changing their seats or forming groups with peers they are comfortable with, or at times even forming groups of slow learners and fast learners. Making peer tutors or buddies will prove to be effective in building confidence and resilience. In the end, we can surely agree on the fact that if resilience remains unchecked, it may cause misunderstandings, loss of confidence, demotivation, and stress, both among teachers and students. It not only deteriorates individuals' performance but also hinders the growth of a person, which further might surface in the form of negative actions, low academic scores, low self esteem. Building resilience can ensure excellent performance of both the individual and institution. Thank you.